everyone. This will be Chapter 3 of A Second Life, written by Die Earl Connigan 6083, and read by Insect Overlord. Even with the domino mask on Nightwing's face, Danny could see the heartbreak and devastation. No, little bird, I'm not worried about you. You have all these abilities that we didn't know about, and we don't know who your other parents are. You don't know my powers, but I do, Danny muttered. The whites of Nightwing's mask whitened. You know what your abilities are? The masked hero asked, shocked. Yeah? I forget I have them a lot, and I don't always remember what they are. There's a ton of them. Nightwing pulled Danny into a hug and onto his lap. Danny looped his arms around the man's neck, pleased that he was able to cuddle up with his original template? Either way, his center felt warm and happy being in Nightwing's arms. There was a safety and security here that he didn't feel elsewhere. We'll need to test some of those, if you don't mind, kiddo, Miss Martian said somewhere behind him. Okay, but only if I get to play hide-and-seek some more. It was fun with Superman, but it's not as fun with just two people, and we should play other games. I'm tired of coloring and reading books. I want to play, Danny demanded, twisting to look at Miss Martian. We'll come up with something, little bird. Don't you worry, Nightwing said, pressing a kiss on top of Danny's head. Looking up at his green-skinned companion, the man continued. It might be a good idea to get the team involved. They could probably use something fun, and hide-and-seek with Mini-Me here could double up as both stealth training, fun, and working on their ability to handle kids. He's not exactly a normal child. No, but neither are a lot of the kids we rescue, Nightwing countered. Worry shot through Danny. Do you rescue a lot of kids? He asked hesitantly. He wanted to be special to Nightwing. Was this stuff he did for a lot of kids? Did they find a lot of clones of the man or other heroes? Yeah, we do. We do our best to give them back to their parents. Are you going to send me to my parents? He asked uncertainly. He hoped that was a yes, because Nightwing was his parent, right? Or at least one of them, so he could be sent to live with Nightwing. Nightwing could be his dad? Nightwing and Miss Martian shared panicked looks. You're a clone, buddy, so you have a lot of different parents. Your current plan is to have you live with your main donor. Oh, will that be soon? His voice wobbled. He didn't want to go with anyone else. He wanted to stay with Nightwing. We're still getting everything ready, but hopefully you'll be able to go with them in the next couple days, Nightwing explained with a smile. Dread filled Danny. He turned his head and buried it in the Kevlar on Nightwing's chest. He hadn't been awake for long, but he was scared. What if he never saw Nightwing again? And even though he hated being cooped up, being in space and being around heroes was really cool. What if he didn't like the new place? What if he was left all alone all the time? What if his main donor wasn't nice? What if they didn't like him? What if they're not nice? What if I don't like them? What if I never see you again? He mumbled into Nightwing's chest. Nightwing held him close, carting his hands through Danny's hair. "Oh, buddy, don't worry. I promise you they already love you. And don't worry, we'll visit you, and so will Miss Martian. We'll check up on you, see how you're doing. Besides, you still have to play hide-and-seek with us, and we need to do some tests on your powers. Plus, I'm pretty sure Black Canary wants to do a couple therapy sessions with you," Nightwing reassured. That helped, but Danny still felt his lip wobbling. This sucked. He wanted to have fun when Nightwing was around, but he wasn't happy right now. Nightwing sighed. "A long time ago, I was just like you," the man said. Curious, Danny looked up at him. Nightwing had been just like him? "I was a lonely boy who just lost his parents. A grieving, angry child. But a man took me in. I was angry, upset. I said a lot of mean things. He still loves me, though. He helped me heal. I'm happy to say I call him Dad now," Nightwing told him gently. Danny blinked, pondering. Danny thought through all the people he felt familial bonds towards. The only one he could think of who was old enough to be Nightwing's dad was Batman. The others all seemed the same age or younger than Nightwing. "I can't promise you that it will be easy, But you have a family out there that's excited to meet you and take you home. Can you at least give them a chance? For me?" Danny sighed. "I can try." "That's all I ask, little bird," Nightwing said, pressing another kiss to his head. Swinging his legs back and forth from a spot in Nightwing's lap, Danny looked around. Miss Martian had left at some point. He hadn't noticed. It was just him and Nightwing. Maybe he could tell him his name now. "Hey, Nightwing, guess what?" he asked excitedly. The man smiled. "What?" "I have a name now," Danny said with a grin. "Oh, you do?" Danny tilted his head. Was Nightwing disappointed? "Who named you?" "Oh, that was a little angry." "Why would Nightwing be angry he got a name?" I did? Is that okay?" Nightwing relaxed. "Of course it is, bud. What did you name yourself?" "Daniel. But my nickname is Danny," he said proudly. "Danny, huh?" "Yeah." Danny looked at his toes, worried, then looked back up at the whites of Nightwing's domino mask. "Do you like it?" "I love it, Danny," the man said, pulling him back into a hug. "It's a great name. Here." Nightwing pulled out a cell phone. Danny looked at it curiously. "Let's take a picture together, Danny." This seemed random. "Why are we taking a picture?" he asked. "We are making memories, little bird. We have to capture and take pictures of all your firsts, and I think you naming yourself counts as a memorable moment. Can you smile for the camera?" "Oh, that was kinda nice." "Okay," he said, looking at the phone Nightwing was holding above them, their faces close together. The hero took a couple pictures of both of them smiling, before Nightwing gave him a kiss on the cheek. Danny scrunched his face, giggling, his core warming. He loved how his dad, hero friend, was so affectionate and cuddly with him. It made him all warm and fuzzy. Nightwing was the best. After the pictures, Nightwing sent it to someone on his phone. "All right, I brought a couple of games with me that we can play, and that you can play with other people, okay? Why don't we start with Jenga?" Danny was going home with his family tomorrow. He was excited and nervous. He had been having a lot of fun playing the different games that Nightwing had brought. Guess Who was really fun, so was Battleship. Nightwing had brought mostly two-player games, which made sense since it was usually just Danny and whoever his babysitter was. He hated that he needed a babysitter. He was able to stay awake longer and longer now, and he wasn't as tired as he used to be. His muscles had atrophied while he was at Cadmus, but since he was using them, they were getting stronger. Caldor was watching him today, and they were playing Go Fish. Nightwing had laughed when Danny had suggested the card game with Caldor before leaving. "Why did Nightwing laugh when I asked to play Go Fish?" he asked, biting his lip. "My current designation as a hero is Aquaman, and when I first met Nightwing, it was Aqualad. He thinks it's funny that you picked a fish-named game, and I am an aquatic hero and an Atlantean." "Oh," Danny thought for a moment. "Do you have any 5s? "No, I do not. Go Fish." Danny grumbled and took a card from the pile. It was an 8. Hadn't Caldor asked if he had an 8 earlier? "So, what are the names of the heroes on the watchtower right now?" "Well, Superman and Batman are on the tower, as is one of the Green Lanterns, Blue Beetle, and a few others. Do you have any 3s? "No, Go Fish." "Can we meet some of them after this game?" Danny asked excitedly. They were running out of games to play. Not only that, but it was super cool to meet the different heroes and see what their powers were. "Oh, do you have any 9s? Caldor handed Danny a card. Grinning, he placed his pair down on the table. "I do not see why we cannot, as long as they're not busy." "Yes!" Danny cheered, shooting up in the air in excitement. Floating back down, he continued the game, pleased that he only had 2 cards left. "Do you have any 8s? He asked with a mischievous grin. Caldor smiled, handing him another card. Danny hummed. He just had 1 left. Do you have any 1s? Damien asked hesitantly. If he got this right, then he won the game, and they could go talk to the other heroes. "It seems you have won," Caldor said, sliding the card across. "Sweet! Good game. Can we go now?" "We must clean up, then yes, we can go." Danny rushed to pick up all the cards and put them back in their box, practically bouncing in excitement by the door when he was done. Caldor looked amused. "Now, Danny, you must stay within my sight at all times, and you have to listen." I know. "Follow me," the Atlantean said, leading the way. Caldor didn't walk too fast, which let Danny explore a bit. Looking out the windows, space was still pretty, even if his room had a window too. Peeking into all the different rooms along the hallway using his intangibility. Caldor wasn't saying he couldn't, so it must be fine. Plus, the bedrooms were on the other side of the space station. "Through here, Danny," Caldor said, holding open a door. Inside was a large door with a massive monitor up against the outer-facing wall. Smaller monitors surrounded the larger screen, each of them showing what looked like cities around the world. One of them was definitely Paris, based on the Eiffel Tower. It was still weird sometimes how Danny just knew things, even though he couldn't remember learning them. Relaxing and leaning back in two chairs was Batman and Superman, who looked over as Caldor and Danny entered. Superman grinned happily, and Danny thought he caught a hint of a smile on Batman's face. "Caldor, Danny, what brings you two here?" Danny is getting rather bored of playing Go Fish. "It's not as fun with only two people. Plus, you weren't even really trying. I won almost every round," he complained. Flying up, he hovered in front of the massive screen, awed by how massive it was. "Whoa, this is bigger than I am. How did you get it up here in space?" All items in space generally had to be brought up somehow. How big did the rocket ship have to be to bring up this huge TV? And the screen had to be super sturdy too, to make the flight. Items were mainly brought up to the watchtower using the Zeta tubes. Larger items, like the screen, were brought up by the Green Lanterns, Batman explained. The Green Lanterns again. Danny floated back down so he was cross-legged, his legs at about hip height for the adults. How do they work exactly? Are they just green-colored flying lanterns that are sentient? Both Caldor and Superman began laughing. Batman chuckled slightly. Danny frowned. "What? What's so funny?" he asked petulantly. He didn't like how out of the loop he was sometimes. Why did his random downloaded knowledge have to be so spotty? The Lanterns are a group of people who use rings that are fueled by emotion. They are not physical lanterns. There are many, many colors. There are 3 Green Lantern members in the Justice League, Caldor explained kindly once he'd finished laughing. "Oh, so then Blue Beetle isn't an actual beetle?" "No, he's not," Superman chimed in with a grin. "His armor resembles a beetle, and his abilities come from a blue scarab." Danny hummed, thinking, putting his chin in his hands. Did everyone have names that matched their hero powers? What was Nightwing's power then? Did he get wings at night? Would Danny get wings? That'd be pretty cool. He did already have a lot of powers, though. Danny felt himself settle on the floor. "Danny," Caldor's voice pulled him out of his thoughts. "Yeah? I have something I need to discuss with Superman real quick. Can you stay here with Batman?" He nodded. "Sure, why not?" It was better than being stuck in that room. Not only that, but the monitors were interesting. Plus, he could maybe talk to Batman. He was Nightwing's dad, right? He would know more about who was taking him tomorrow. If he took Nightwing in when Nightwing was little, maybe he could help Danny's fears. He looked up at the man, only to find Batman glaring at the 2 retreating figures. It was hard to tell what the hero was thinking with the mask thing that covered his head. Batman looked down at Danny. Was it just him, or did Batman relax slightly when looking at him? Maybe? Looking away, Batman sat down in one of the chairs, typing away at the computer. He couldn't remember a time being alone with the man. Usually Nightwing was also there, or one of the other people he felt a bond with. There was definitely a bond between them. Batman had always been nice, though. As silently as he could, Danny crawled over until he was right next to the chair. He watched the man for another moment before gently tugging on Batman's cape. The typing stopped, and once again, he was the focus of those lens-covered eyes. Danny gulped. Are you Nightwing's dad?" he whispered, biting his lip. "I raised him after his parents passed," Batman responded after a moment. "Huh, so he was Nightwing's dad. When you took Nightwing in, how old was he?" Danny asked, feeling a bit more confident since Batman had answered his first question. He was just a year or two older than you are now. How long did it take for you to love him? I loved him from the moment I took him home. Oh, that was surprising. Do you think they'll like me? Danny asked worriedly. Batman turned in his chair, his cape slipping out of Danny's fingers. The man leaned down in the chair, his torso nearly on top of his thighs. Oh, chum, they already love you, Batman said gently, his gloved hand ruffling Danny's hair. They do? He asked, surprised. Yes, they do. Warmth spread through his core at that. He wanted to be picked up. He wanted to hug his grandpa, this man, press his core as close to Batman's core as he could. Danny reached his arms up. Understanding, Batman grasped him under his armpits, lifting him up a little awkwardly, as Batman was still sitting, onto his lap. Danny's heart thrummed in warmth and happiness. While he sat in Nightwing's lap a lot, this was the first time he'd been in Batman's. Being held by Batman felt different than being held by Nightwing. Nightwing made Danny feel safe, secure, and loved. That was all still there with Batman, but there was also this fierce protection. Danny wasn't fully sure. Maybe he was getting better at reading those Bond things? When was someone actually going to teach him how to read them? Or why some were stronger than others? He was mainly just guessing at this point. No matter. He really wanted to check out Batman's head cover thing. Reaching up, he gently poked at the cover on Batman's cheek, not far from his ear. Oh, it's kinda squishy. It's designed to protect my head and absorb blows, Batman said, lowering his head to give Danny access to the little ear pointy things. They're squishy too. I thought they'd be pointy. They just look pointy. Batman often didn't say much. That was okay. Danny was pretty sure he liked him. So, what are your powers? My powers? Yeah, do you turn into a bat? No, I do not, Batman said, Danny catching just a hint of amusement. I don't have any powers, nor does Nightwing, a few of my associates and others in the League. Oh, Danny swung his legs a bit. Is it scary to fight people without powers? It can be. Their conversation continued for a while, Batman answering all of Danny's questions. Mostly. Batman refused to give too much information about the family Danny would be going with. Although apparently he was going to be moved to a city called Gotham? And no, everyone wasn't goth there. Danny thought it was a reasonable question. Danny had confided in Batman that he was scared for tomorrow. Even with all of Nightwing's, Batman's, and other people's assurances, he was also scared since Nightwing wouldn't be there when he left with his new family. Kaldor and Superman came back eventually, knowing smiles on their faces. Just, Danny didn't seem to be in the know. Batman squeezed him a bit closer. Not that Danny minded. Hugs and cuddles were great. Superman said he had monitor duty, but the bats, Batman, could go back with Kaldor and Danny. Which, cool. More people to play cards with. They played for a while, all three of them playing Go Fish, Crazy Eights, and Old Maid. The day was ending, though, and Danny was getting sleepy. He didn't want to go to bed. That meant it would be tomorrow soon. Danny tried really hard to stay awake, but his eyelids were drooping. His head nodded forward when he was picked up once more by Batman. "Time for bed, chum," he said, carrying Danny over to the medical bed. "No, don't wanna," Danny protested. Batman ignored him, placing him down. Danny pouted, grumpy. Batman reached for his shoes. Danny flopped down on the bed. He wasn't going to help at all. He didn't want to go to sleep. It was calling him, though. Exhaustion rushed through him. Danny grumbled, tossing and turning a few times once Batman had removed his socks and shoes. He gave the man a half-hearted glare as his eyes began to droop once more, and he drifted off. It was morning. Danny was sitting at the table eating cereal and trying to read the chapter that had been assigned in English class. He really should have done it last night, but he'd been busy. Ghost stuff and all. His sister made an appearance, her orange-red hair flowing behind her signature teal headband. "Hurry up, Danny, or we're going to be late for school," she said, before grabbing her bag and heading towards the front door. Shoveling the remaining cereal in his mouth as quickly as he could, Danny finished his breakfast before putting his bowl in the sink. He'd get to it when he got back from school. Grabbing his book and backpack, he followed his sister out of the house. It was here. Today was the day. He would be going down to Earth, to Gotham, to meet his new family. He'd been too nervous to eat, despite the coaxing from both Red Robin and Red Hood. Time was moving by slowly. It sucked. Finally, it was time. Danny walked along with Red Robin and Red Hood. He was between them, one of his hands on one of theirs, gripping both tightly. He needed support. They made their way to the big atrium. 2 men and a woman were waiting by the metal caves. They were dressed in normal clothes, not hero costumes. The woman had a few scars on her face, but kind eyes. She had a slim but lean build and was far shorter than the 2 men waiting with her. She was dressed in a bright blue dress with black leggings and comfortable-looking black loafers. She was of Asian descent and smiled upon seeing him. One of the men was tall and broad, with black hair with hints of silver in it. He had bright blue eyes that were warm and a gentle, soft smile on his face. He was dressed in well-fitting slacks and a dark sweater. The final man was tall and lean, dressed comfortably in a t-shirt and jeans. There was a nervousness about him, despite the happy grin on his face. He had familial bonds with all of them, the strongest with the man in the t-shirt and jeans. Okay, he knew he had a lot of familial bonds, but this was getting a little ridiculous. Danny squeezed Red Hood's and Red Robin's hands even more as they approached the 3 people. The man dressed in comfortable clothes crouched down till he was more on Danny's level. "Hi, Danny," he said softly. "I'm Richard Grayson, but you can call me Dick. Pretty much everyone does." Hi," Danny said, tilting his head. There was something really familiar about the man in front of him. He couldn't quite place it. "Behind me is my dad, Bruce, and my sister, Cass. We're going to take you with us when you're ready." "When I'm ready?" "Yes, when you're ready," Dick reassured. "We do have to leave today, but if you want to spend some time getting to know us before we head to Gotham, we can do that." Hesitantly, Danny let go of both the hands he was holding. He stared at the man in front of him. He knew they were family. All of his family he'd met so far had been nice. Danny should be able to trust them, and he didn't think that the heroes would give him to people who would hurt him. Shyly, he stepped forward, biting his lip, grasping the loose hand that was resting on Dick's knee. "I'm ready," he said, trying to be brave. All nerves disappeared from the man in front of him. A blinding grin stretched across his face as he stood back up. They made their way to the metal caves. They made Danny really nervous for some reason. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing between the man named Bruce and the woman named Cass. Red Robin went to a terminal near the entrance of the cave and typed, the cave lighting up. Danny jerked in surprise, fear rising within him. He didn't like this. "It's okay. There's going to be a voice. It's going to say some things. The lights are going to get brighter, and then we're going to be teleported away, okay?" Dick said, crouching down once more. The hand holding Danny's squeezing gently, and the others rising to rest on Danny's shoulder. The reassurance helped, especially since Dick had told him what was going to happen. But Danny couldn't help the tears that pricked the corner of his eyes. This was absolutely terrifying, and he didn't know why. His inner self, his core, freaking out. He barely registered the robotic voice before the lights brightened and they zapped away. This concludes Chapter 3 of A Second Life. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really like it, and I'm excited to get into the main part of the story. If you like this one, as always, there's a link to the fic in the description, so please go give the author some comments and kudos, because they really deserve it. This is a great story. The next chapter should be up soon, and thank you so much for listening.